So when it comes to two consoles competing against each other, there's basically two... Wait, you know what? Let's spice this video up a little bit. The Atari 400 and Xbox 360, but don't forget the NES, the Commodore 64, Magnavox Odyssey, and of course the Sega Genesis. Oh, the PlayStation Vita and Google Stadia. Have fun with the Game Boy Advance, the Sega Dreamcast, and if I'm being brash, the incredibly mid Steam Deck. Oh, the Wii U, the GameCube, the DS, and Switch. Now Nintendo has made a whole lot. I thought this would be easy, but it's real hard, so let's cut our losses and move on. Well, that was certainly something. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, console wars. So now with Xbox and PlayStation both pursuing what some might call small business ventures, I thought that I would dive into the history of console wars and show how both these companies have ended up at each other's throats. So back before everyone and their mom knew how to build a PC, playing video games on console was a quality and affordable way to play all of your favorite games. So the first ever console made was the Magnavox Odyssey in 1972. Now this ancient hardware only ever had about 28 games made for it. Keep in mind though, that's 16 more titles than the PlayStation 5 currently has. As I was saying though, this console would set the precedence for a multi-billion-dollar market that's still going strong to this day. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce. The first ever console war started with the crash of '83, which refers to the video game market crash in 1983 due to a loss of publishing control for console games. This crash also decimated arcades across the country, but that's a video for another time. So after seeing this crash in the US market, Japan saw the perfect opportunity to hop into the competition by rebranding its Famicom console into the beloved Nintendo Entertainment System, or the NES for short. Nintendo tried to make this console appear better for the masses by making it look like a VCR, while adding a new lockout system, which at the time was basically the equivalent of putting up a Ring doorbell and a welcome mat to make your shitty downtown apartment look like a multi-million-dollar New York penthouse. Another group at the time who was eyeing this opening in the market was interested in the rootin' tootin', highway scootin', and fast moving fun that video games had to offer. Thus a small company called Sega graced the video game market with their console called the Master System. Another lack of mainstream success to Sega's first attempt is due to their third-party distributor at the time, Tonka. Yes, I know what you're thinking. How could the same company who made thousands of toy metal cars possibly be responsible for distributing video games? And to that I say, just how can Samsung make both the Galaxy Z Flip and the SSM 700K Seastar surface-to-air anti-cruise ship missile? Anyways, Tonka opted against selling multiple Japanese games that Sega had made, so after licking its wounds, Sega went back to the drawing board and released the Sega Genesis, and switched over to Atari for distributing their system. On a side note, one of the advertising slogans that came from Sega was, "Genesis does what Nintendo don't," and I just have to say, we need more of that energy now. Could you imagine if Microsoft were to say, "PlayStation, more like go play with some bitches"? I don't know, but me personally, I think that would boost sales like crazy, but hey, to each their own. By the time the SNES had released and made waves, Sega had increased to a staggering 55% of the overall market control in 1992, compared to only 10% in 1990. Another shift in console preference can be seen to the release of Mortal Kombat for both systems. Due to the extreme violence, however, Nintendo released their version with sweat instead of blood. Sega did the same, but left the blood settings in behind a cheat code. This made this version of the game sell around 3 to 5 more times than the SNES port did. However, while all this sounds great, in the mid-90s the beginning of the end was put into motion, with a staggering 20% drop in revenue for video games as a whole in 1995. Despite Sega releasing the Sega Saturn and Nintendo releasing the Nintendo 64 to try and counteract this, both were put into the dust by Sony, who released the first iteration of the PlayStation. Upon this happening, both companies turned their attention to Sony as their new rival, and Sega even tried releasing a new console called the Dreamcast, but it was no match for one of the best-selling consoles of all time, aka the PlayStation 2. So while there wasn't a clear winner to the war, there is an opinion that can be made that Nintendo came out on top. This is mainly because Sega stopped producing consoles in 2001 to focus more on software and other endeavors. Once it's all said and done though, it makes me glad that both companies made amends and were able to produce classics, such as Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games, Mario and Sonic at the 2012 Olympic Games, Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games, Mario and Sonic at the 2016 Olympic Games, and finally Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. There's a joke in there somewhere about releasing 6 different titles just focusing on the Olympics, but I think we should just take this time now to enjoy some peace and quiet. Alright, fuck it, let's do this. As you might know, there has been another console war going on between two very small technology companies who have not had any past controversies whatsoever. Anyways, I digress. This war started off pretty much like the other one did, with an extremely dominant company who eventually had another competitor enter the market. This very competitor happened to be Microsoft, with their initial product being the original Xbox that was released in 2001. However, instead of marketing the Xbox as just another console, they chose a different approach by pushing the Xbox as a personal computer instead of just a gaming platform. Despite this, however, the original Xbox failed worse than me trying to manage a sleep schedule. Seriously, I go to bed at 5 AM, please help me, I don't know what to do and it's seriously affecting my mental health. Even though Microsoft didn't profit off the Xbox, they licked their wounds and came back with the release of the Xbox 360 in 2005. Also, fun fact, this is the first ever console that I played on. And of course, me being the video game connoisseur I am, my go-to game of choice was the masterclass that is Cars Race-A-Rama. As I was saying though, the Xbox 360 actually outsold Sony's release of the PlayStation 3. However, the 360 did have some minor issues such as the console bricking with a certain colored circle that gave millennials and Gen Zs both PTSD, and ultimately cost Microsoft $1.1 billion to repair this. Now this round, oh let me tell you, this was the apex of the conflict. I remember back in high school you either had an Xbox One or we made fun of you for not having an Xbox One. Overall though, the PlayStation 4 was more focused on gaming as a niche, and trying not to get hacked during the biggest gaming period of the year. On the other hand, you had Microsoft who tried moving gaming over into the family setting with the Kinect, much like the Wii had done with its motion controls. However, the main downfall of this was that the Kinect needed to have an always-on internet connection to work. So you can either have a company whose cybersecurity is as flimsy as my parents' marriage, or you can have a company who's actively trying to take your data. Anyways, as far as sales goes, the PlayStation 4 outsold the Xbox One by 65 million copies. Damn, I don't even have a joke for that one. As much as I'd like to wrap up this whole thing with the newest battle in this ongoing war, being the PS5 against the Xbox Series X, I don't think there's enough time that has gone by for me to comment on it. So instead, let's go through my personal thoughts on console wars as a whole. While there have been many different variations of consoles and versions of this ongoing war, I don't think there will ever be an end to it anytime soon at least. There will just always be that new kid on the block who comes and forces itself into the spotlight. Another way of saying this is that the old are fed to the young, and no matter how long the limelight may seem, you might never know what's right around the corner. Anyways, let's cut this sad shit out and talk about something that really matters. I think that as a society we've become too worried about opinions. As a wise man once said, it's okay to have dumb opinions. I just feel like people can't like stupid shit for the sake of enjoying it. For example, even now I still love Black Ops 4's version of zombies. Are the maps good? No. Do I want to commit toaster bath whenever I die after spending 2.5 hours on an Easter egg to try and get a small sliver of serotonin? Yes, but that's okay because at the end of the day, I just don't really care what people have to say about my dumb little baby wah-wah opinions. But hey, what do I know? So at the end of the day, just get a PC. P.S. Who the hell thought it was a good idea to name a console the Videojet Megaduck? Hey, hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is currently me in editing mode, but I would like to just say that I had a ton of fun making this video. If you guys want me to cover anything specific, feel free to leave a comment down below, and make sure to leave a sub for more content in the future. Peace!